The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Welcome to McGee Uncensored Podcast. I'm your host, McGee. I'm going to be talking about fantasy football review of the season I just had. It's a little overdue, but the schedule's been a little bit full. Plus, I was waiting till the end of the Super Bowl. And congratulations to the New England Patriots. My favorite team. I sound like a kid when I say that. Been a fan of the team since 1993. Not that I need to explain myself as to why I'm a fan. I just like the team and the franchise. Watched probably the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history, the greatest game in Super Bowl history, completed by the greatest quarterback of all time. There's little doubt. And I know 50 years down the road, I just don't think anybody's going to achieve what Tom Brady has achieved. I just want to put all the end to the talk of whatever has happened in the past, these alleged transgressions. Let them go. I'm an unabashed fan. I've been very fortunate. I've witnessed 5 New England Patriots Super Bowl wins, 4 Pittsburgh Penguins Stanley Cup wins, 7 LA Laker NBA championships. There's an asterisk. They won one in 85. I was 3 years old. I really wasn't a fan yet. I didn't know much about basketball at 3 years old. But in 87, I knew enough when I was 5. They're going through a rebuild, but I think they're going to be back in no time. I think another 2 years. It'll be a very strong team. And last but not least, 5 New York Yankees World Series titles. Those might be my favorite out of everything, watching the Yankees win. It's not by mistake that I am a follower, supporter, a fan of winning franchises. And with the Patriots, they were not winners, so to speak, when I started to root for them, and all of a sudden everybody hates them. Why is it that people love an underdog, but when that underdog becomes the favorite, they boo? I don't understand. How would you feel if you rose to the top? People cheer for you and then all of a sudden they turn on you. How would you like that? Not too much. And I'm no bandwagon fan. Yes, growing up in the area, Joe Montana's from the area, so I was a Joe Montana fan. Not that I was like a big 49ers fan, but, I was a Montana fan. And this is, a retort to people I went to college with who I really haven't spoken to in a while, so, their opinion means nothing. I know that they sometimes just like to rile me up, but for some of them I've seen them play sports and, I'm not going to bully, but they really have no room to talk. I digress. But why would you want to be miserable and root on teams that will probably never win a championship while you're alive? Not saying that there's miracles in sports. I don't think there's miracles at all. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, do you actually think their franchise is going to win a Super Bowl? No, they won NFL championships many, many years ago, but that's many, many years ago. For some reason, people don't count that anymore. I don't think that's fair either, because I think Otto Graham has 8 or 9 as a player, and the Browns have, one of the most. The Packers have the most, I think. So, but, Super Bowls counts, apparently. Well, the NFL here for a merger. Do you think the Colorado Rockies will win a World Series? Well, we're all alive. I don't know. Will the Dodgers get back to the World Series? I don't know. cheer for winners. Cheer for winners. Like, do you think the Milwaukee Bucks are winning an NBA championship? I'm not talking crap about these teams or franchises. But do you think the Miami Heat are going to win another one? I mean, it's a shame. I think the state of the NBA, to be honest, the East is so weak. But I'm going to save all that talk for another day. Here I'm talking about how I climbed to the top, at least the second place in most leagues, in some very competitive fantasy football. I did 3 leagues this past season. I finished second in 2 of them, and I think was 5th in another, which I don't know if I'll do that one again because the setup's kind of not to my liking. Not that I needed to go into my favor, but I'll explain for the 5 of you who may listen to this. I do a competitive league with a good college buddy of mine, Joe Black, invited me into a league a couple years ago. And I finished second before. And I finished this year. And he projected me to finish 6th. He looked at my team. He said, McGee, that's a 6th place team. And I defied the odds. Some crafty drafting in later rounds. I can't say they had a strategy. Obviously, in the first round, you go both best available. And I took Julio Jones. And then Devontae Freeman fell to me in the second. The third, I took a chance on Jeremy Langford. That didn't pan out, but I traded him. Early on in the season with Tyler Boyd. I traded those 2 for Ryan Matthews and LeGarrette Blount. Was able to sell high on those guys. I went in with questions at the quarterback position. I had keepers in Jameis Winston and Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill came on towards the end of the season, but I won't be keeping him for next. I'll be keeping Winston. If they build around him, I don't know. I got to see what they do the running back position. Doug Martin's probably gone. See what happens. They got to get another receiver in there to help out with Mike Evans. They got to develop a tight end. That Cameron Brate's not bad. But I finished with a 12-5 record. I even surprised myself. I stayed patient with my team in the Central City Member Motels League. I avoided guys who had long injury history. Long history of injury, excuse me. Jamal Charles is there, didn't draft him. And I think that's the one thing you have to think about too is crucial because the same guys seem to get hurt every year. And they're just not worth drafting in high rounds. Maybe in later rounds as an RB3, or 4, but definitely not as an RB1 or 2. I was very surprised that Odell Beckham went 3rd. He had an okay season. Todd Gurley went early. I don't think he'll be drafted in the first round this year. In August, I don't think so. Had a down year. I had my sights set on Ezekiel Elliott, and I had him set back in May of 2016. You could talk to Joe Black about this. And this is before all of a sudden the reports come out this guy's going to be a beast. And he didn't. I don't think he went past 4 or whatever. And I just went best available. Now, it did me well. I stayed patient. Some guys like to do a lot of trading. I'm not into that. They want to try to go for guys who have like a hot streak. That's not me. Stay the course. Do your job. Some guys, when I look at the end of the season, I look back at some of their moves, they drafted terribly. Terribly. There was nothing that I could even look at when they would ask for trades. There was nothing on their roster that made me want to pull the trigger on a deal. There was just nothing there. Now, in all leagues, it seems like some guys always value their team and their players higher than most. And they always want everything for nothing. And I don't like that. And I think that's why some guys do struggle, too. Because when they get in leagues with guys that know sports, like myself, Joe Black, a couple others, it becomes very difficult. And sometimes, I don't know if luck has anything to do with it. You may get a flyer, later rounds. That happens. You get lightning strikes. But I'm already looking at film. I'm looking at the draft boards now. weak quarterback class coming out for 2017, not high on the rookie quarterback class. Maybe Deshaun Watson late, depending where he goes. Maybe. As a keeper, depending where he goes. But it was a fight to the finish. I think Joe Black looked at my team and said, how is this guy winning? Well, I won. And I came within a game of taking the championship. He was a little nervous. I know he was. He was a little nervous. Now, the week I played him, which was a critical matchup, I could have tied him at the time. You know, I had Julio Jones out, Devontae Freeman out. All my big guys were out. And yet, I almost pulled an upset. Almost. Was able to secure second place also in the fantasy football draft. I had first place wrapped up, and then the guy that was a little bit behind me had Brady and James White, Chris Hogan. Obviously, James White blew up in the Super Bowl, and it's okay. It's okay. The other league that I finished second place in, I finished top 3 7 out of the 11 years I've been in this league. It's an all-points league. It's not head-to-head. Fairly simple formula to follow. Get a good QB quarterback, and just draft guys that you hope don't get hurt and put up some decent numbers, and you'll be fine. I drafted Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback, and he alone was carrying the load in most weeks towards the end, scoring 46 points. In that league, I don't know who my keeper will be. It's super keeper's been Gronkowski, but I don't know. I might have to give up on him. I'm looking at David Johnson from the Cardinals. And I have Michael Thomas, who might be my rookie keeper. He put up a really good year. I don't think people realize statistically how well he did. And I'd just give up a 5th-round pick. And he could be a receiver 1 or 2. I have no problem giving up a 5th round for him. But we'll see what happens here in the offseason. Last couple of years, some of the guys got a little bit smarter in the league. The one guy, Chuchi, finished last pretty much every year. This league's been in existence for over 20-some years, I think. Some of the names and faces have changed, obviously. I've been in it for, I think, since 2005. And I'll continue to be in it. It's a decent league to be in. Decent payout. Nice. A couple guys really don't check trades, and that's fine. Sometimes that's the thing I think with any league is I don't like a league that's not as active. You don't have to text me all the time. I'm in a hockey league right now, and some of those guys they'll text me in August about hockey deals, and I have no interest right now. I'm focusing on football. And then I tell them, hey, I'm not interested, and they'll keep bugging me, and they just don't get it. And that's a very hard league to do deals in early on. I wasn't been able to put a couple trades together lately. I'm going to try to make a run in hockey. We'll see. It becomes difficult because I don't like trading draft picks. It just becomes a huge mess. So I kind of limit myself on what I do, and I purposely drafted a lot of young guys outside the keeper round in hockey this year because I wanted to. So if I messed up other people's draft plans, so be it. I'm segueing in between a bunch of different leagues. I apologize. And the last football league I was in, out of the 3 that I'm getting to, I don't know if I'm going to do it this upcoming season. I don't know. There's a couple things. And for people that understand fantasy sports, you could do a flex position, and there's 2 flex positions, but one of them you could put a QB in. So your drafting is a little bit different. Some people like to take 4 quarterbacks. I'm not that greedy for a quarterback. I just don't like the flex position of a quarterback. I think it just throws things off. It's either make it a 2 QB league or just get rid of the extra flex position. Pretty simple. And that league was tough this year because there's a couple people who didn't set their roster. We had an issue with that with the Central City League. Mark, he'll never listen to this, so it doesn't really matter, is a guy in the league that never set his lineup. So that's why there's a lot of parity in the league. To whereas if you set his lineup, he might have been able to beat people. Just set your lineups, win or lose. Set your lineups. So that incurred fines. Cost me a fine that was that I tried to negotiate, and I was going to get really mad. Not mad, but I was just going to call this guy out during the draft and say it's all because of him that we're getting fined. I started Antonio Gates. He was a late scratch. I couldn't get a chance to sub somebody else in, so I got fined because he didn't play. I get it, but it wasn't as if I left him in there, didn't know. I couldn't change anything. That was 2 seasons ago, 2015. But Mark loves the Ravens and drafts a bunch of Ravens. He trades once in a while now, and he doesn't do any free agent pickups. He's not active, and that's the problem. He's not active, so he doesn't. He can go. I know we're going to have a replacement for Ted in the league. We'll see. But the third final league I was in I did it with a high school buddy of mine runs it. He does well with it. It's fine, but I may suggest that maybe try to find some new people to do the league. And that's another thing. It was tough to trade with some people. Just very tough to trade with some people in there. And I had the second highest scoring team, but because my divisional record wasn't as good as one guy ahead of me, he gets the bye in the playoffs. And he ended up getting to the championship round. But my team consistently was a high scorer. I don't know. Wasn't too happy about that because the guy who got the bye didn't deserve to really be in the playoffs. And I really don't care. The claws come out. Like the viciousness comes out in fantasy sports. There are people who just are, I don't know. I hate seeing my money go to people I don't like. So I try not to be in too many leagues with people I don't like. I used to be in a league with a couple fraternity brothers, and I just didn't like some of them. The league disbanded or whatever. I'm sure some of them went out because, a couple of them colluded with each other. I know that on deals, and one guy would offer the goofiest deals all the time, and so I'm glad that league's over with. I didn't want to see my money go to those people. When it comes to setting up a league, it's not rocket science. It's very simple setup, a very simple setup. And I don't know why people want to go and try to do independent defensive players. They try to be cute and clever about things, and that's in over your head. I did a league like that. A college buddy of mine set it up a couple of years ago. And there was no money involved, thank God. I just didn't like it. There's nothing wrong with simple when it comes to fantasy sports. I just want to see a fair, even playing field. That's all, where everybody has a chance. And, people aren't starting their lineups, kick them out. Even if it's like week 6, week 7, kick them out. Find somebody else to take over. Or just agree that, maybe the league takes over and then just splits them or something. I don't know. But I think it's the one thing that really irritates me is when people just don't care at all. Like, why be in a league then? You're wasting valuable time. My time you're wasting. But overall, I feel that it was a pretty successful run. I just got to carry that momentum into the following year. I have a couple weeks left in hockey. I'm doing 2 leagues. One league's, like I said, competitive. The other league, like, nobody checks anything. And people, when you're in a league with people who don't know anything outside of the Pittsburgh Penguins, that becomes very difficult to send deals. So, thanks for tuning in. This is McGee Uncensored Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at McGee Uncensored. I have an Instagram. I just post boring pictures, and like 3 people like them once in a while. So until next time, all right, later.